Welcome to Mandulo's Sacred Conversations, where we come to heal together. And then you take this healing on your individual, capacity, and you heal on your own. And then to whoever you share this information with, they can also find healing. So I've currently left the yoga space. And I'm saying that because I've gone mobile, and it's interesting how my life is like informing itself in such different ways that I can't even like I can see but I can't see. You know what you know one of those, right? So in the yoga space, I always wanted to like talk about relationships because I was like, this is the one thing people just want to know and to heal. Yet, and because of the stigma, and I was like, in my own mind, if I talk about sex, like, oh my God, what will people think? And then I think to myself, some people, because of the work that I do in the healing space, sometimes they would like, I've heard people be like, oh, my healer, my guru. And I'm like, I am just Mandulo, who happens to have access to this information and wisdom. And if you want to come sit and share in conversation and in healing and in movement and in breath and in touch, then we can give you access to deeper wisdom that you already have for yourself. And then I also realized why healing can be boring for some people is because it doesn't have instant gratification. For some people, it's not part of their lifestyle and understanding why do you need to heal. Okay. And maybe let me start off with the topic. Is your sex expensive? And you're like, huh? Like, what am I talking about? And I'm like, is your sex expensive? Okay. So let me go back to healing. Healing is releasing the veil of your conditioning that has kept you bound into fear. I'm going to actually just write that down because that just came. Healing is the removal of the veil from your conditioning keeping you tied into fear, keeping you tied into fear. See, as we're doing this, I'm also receiving information. We're learning together. That's how I said we're learning together. Okay, so that is what healing is. Now we go into, is your sex expensive? What is sex? Okay, there's so many things, there's so many definitions of what sex is for people. Yet it's a taboo thing that we don't talk about, yet it's the one thing we all like have come through and desire and want to go to. It's like you come out of it and you want to go back into to explore what that was that had the ability to create you and your existence. It's interesting. Of course you would want to go back. Right. And then some people just become completely celibate and are like, you know what, actually, this is a bit too much for me. So it's about understanding your relationship with you and you. Who's you and you? Your spirit and your ego, your soul, connecting as one full energetic unit, because that's what you are. And depending on where your mind is, where your heart is, where your body is, they might be on different frequencies. And up until you're tuning yourself into the highest frequency on all of them, then this is what we call misalignment. And then this is where we need healing. Okay? So, relationships. At the end of the day, realize that everybody wants the booty. Okay. Now, hear me out. Okay. Hear me out. Everybody wants the booty. I just said that we've come from sex, this beautiful thing, yet we have so many different variations and understandings and associations to them that we want to go back because this is something that has formed and informed our creation. So of course you're going to go want to understand that creation. And that's why relationships are so important too, to understand what was this miracle from this instant of ecstasy, no matter how long it lasted. What was this thing, this magic that created this? Okay, and created, when I created this, I mean life and me and all the things you also going to create. Now, I must help you understand that just because you are creating, it doesn't mean there's going to be a physical manifested form the way in which you desire all the time. Okay, there's going to be ways in which you access it through different ways, right? It's like when I left my corporate space in the civil engineering framework and space, I was seeking happiness and I was seeking to do my passion, to not be behind a desk, right? I didn't know how on earth I was going to go about it. I just knew I had such a strong desire in doing it. So then what happened? I started praying. I prayed. I was like, God, please get me out of here. I cannot, my soul is just, or spirit is just shriveling, like it's drying out like, a raisin. I was just like, this is not what life is supposed to be. Like, this is not, what I want. Within that space, I see a yoga video. Within that space, I get directed to going into my first yoga class. Within that space, it propelled a whole lot of things that brought me to here now. Now, I must tell you first and foremost, I thought yoga was boring. When I was 15, I did my first class. And it was like with, quite mature people at that stage. It was also an instructor who'd been doing it for many, 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 many years. Okay, so I'm 15, like I said. So it felt like many, 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 many years ahead of me, right? And it was so still and it was so simple. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so bored here. Like, yikes. Up until I found the yoga a couple of years ago when I was 24 or 23, bridging. Yeah, I was 24. 23 turning 24. And at that space, it was like the contortioning, the strength, the sweating, the asanas that I couldn't understand what it was, but I was looking and there was just such a thrill of, wow, I can draw myself towards myself and find myself. And I remember at the end of the class, I was like, I don't know what this is, but this is it, right? So I must also help you understand that no one in my life was doing yoga at the time. I didn't know anybody who was doing it, but something told me, dive in, Okay, so here I am now creating my own thing, speaking from my truth and just speaking about these things that I don't know why we don't speak about them. And it's such a taboo thing, as if we don't all or have never experienced relationship issues. Because out of all things in life, the one thing humans rarely understand is relationship. And here's the thing, everything is relationship, right? So why is your sex expensive? Let me go to the aspect of the first relationship that exists is the being that goes into the doing. Now, the being has to generally be in inspired doing. Okay, so you want to move from a state where your doing and your action is inspired. So when you are inspired, you are in spirit. When you are in spirit, you are an inspiration to people, right? So the being and the doing, when you are being, all information is drawn out or drawn from you. But because we have been, the natural cycle will be to explore the external doing and what the physical manifestation, I'm just writing here too, because there's some notes I also want to just take down for other things. Physical manifestations, right? So it's a dance between what comes from the empty space. Now, this relationship here articulates itself in so many different ways, and it will be romantic and non-romantic, okay? But we look at the romantic because no matter where you go, everybody wants to experience love. Everybody wants to fulfill their story. Everybody wants to live their dream, and rightfully so. But where are you living your dream from? Unhealed or healed space? This is what makes the difference, and why I'm going to show you why the work that I do is very important, and it'll help you understand why I experience so much joy from this, because it's a constant play and practice of observing what I've learned from my wisdom of the body within me, telling me, this is not supposed to be happening. How do you go about, just sharing your truth and relating in a way that says, I'm going to hold space for you with such deep reverence. And I would like you to do the same. And I would hope that we meet at a point where you are at the same space. But what happens is how we relate and why we relate and attract one another is because we are moving from the wound. Okay. When you came, out of all the sperm that came from your dad, you were the one who came. I just want you, I want to remind you about that first before I continue. Because if you understand that you were the one who came, I don't know how many millions they say of sperm comes out in ejaculation, but there's many that come out. And out of all of those, your particular connection with the sperm together with your mom's egg combined to form you. That's magic that we will constantly explore. Okay. In that being state, all you had to do was be. That's why when we came onto earth, we were designated as human beings. Okay. So I have to keep referencing because I can definitely derail with this information. But we're going into the being state where you've already come and you were being, you were formed in your mom's womb just by being. You were connected to the egg just by being. That frequency matched so much so that you were the one who came. Out of all those within that release, you were the one who came. So already you have won at life. Okay. So I just want to help you see from that perspective. And then we come into a life where, because we are trying to understand the being state, our egos start to take form on a deeper level. So between 0 and 7, they form deeper because now it's monkey see, monkey do. And that monkey see, monkey do, you, because as a child, could not articulate with words what you were feeling, you would action it. And most times what you were actioning from the frustration was what you have seen. Like I said, monkey do, monkey see, monkey do. So you are constantly learning from your environment and those people who have come before you, those who are your guardians. So that is part of the veil of your conditioning, that already, because you were covered to see that all you needed to be was you thought that you had to constantly do. Now, this goes into your relationship with your parents. Your parents, you must understand, were simply two lovers who came together. They too came through their wounds and they just absolutely adored each other. And then reality struck when kids started coming out to play. Hence why romance can get lost in translation because of the lack of understanding that how we meet each other is first through our wounds. But if we do not recognize that these are our wounds, this is why we will constantly, in any healing and therapy, we always just like, oh no, but he, and then my mom and dad, but that relates to your romantic. So your relationship with your parents is highly connected to your romantic relationships. And that's how I'm just going to say sex is expensive because you do it this long route that takes you into saying all the healing stuff and the lifestyle and like clean lifestyle and, you know, like happy, joy, safe is like, oh no, that's like boring stuff. I need something that can just get me lost and not present to my problems. Right? Okay. So your relationship with yourself has a being and your doing. Your relationship with your parents has a relationship with the being and the doing within themselves and then with the both of you. Now, in order to find that oneness, like I said, before we came, we had the being and the doing aligned. Then we came into physical form, which the being wanted to understand the doing and how to do it. But the doing started overtaking the being. And this is where we have all these things of society and the conditioning and, right? So this is how different jobs were formed, because now we got to understand this aspect, this healing required from different, in different ways, should I say. So you can still talk about and heal your relationships at work, at your extracurricular activities, after work, during work, and weekends, you know, the societies you form, or all the relationships you're trying to heal with your one being and doing, and one your parents. Okay. So now you are healing your beingness. When you came, if you look at kids, they are completely free. Okay. I think I need to just slow down too. It feels like I'm talking a little bit fast, as if I'm running out of time when I can just create another podcast to extend on this information. Okay, so your being and your doing, as kids, you came with all the information you needed. The freeness that you look at kids gets suppressed by the suppression from the parents. If you were suppressed, that is from your doing. What then extends to that is to please your parents. You start becoming a people pleaser, because the words they also do is, when you do good and make me smile, that's only when you're good or deserving to be seen, right? And it's not necessarily a fault to them. This is just the relationship of the being and doing. This is just the relationship between the spirit and the ego having a dance, trying to understand itself. If you look at yoga teachings, we have the spinal column, and in that you have the two snakes, the Kundalini rising, the two snakes coming up towards the crown of the head, the Christ oil. Okay, so you have your spinal column. That's your alignment. That's the highest alignment that you can be in. The Sushumna Nadi, the Ida and the Pingala, it's almost like your divine feminine and masculine energies coming together, your ego and your spirit coming together, your being and your doing, coming together, seeing why the other is the way it is, and then trying to understand it, but then forgetting, right? So if you think of like two snakes, at first they're looking in one direction. Then when they're coming back, they're looking in the opposite direction, right? So you're constantly in this twist and turn, and then sometimes you've forgotten what you've seen. Why? Because the veil of your conditioning would have you believe that this is the only truth because of what you saw. And I must help you understand that whatever you see has so many different aspects and so many stories, because there could be someone, if you're telling a story, whatever you saw from that perspective, there could be someone who was standing ahead of you, someone who was flying above you who had seen something different, someone who was standing behind you versus someone who was standing to your side versus someone who wasn't there and imagined the story on your behalf. Okay? So the struggle with the human relationship comes into we're trying to find this ultimate truth. And it's like, what is this ultimate truth? Right? And there's so many as there are many people. Because like I said, when you are telling a story, you're telling it from your perspective looking forward, but someone is telling a perspective from the top, from the sides, from the back, and then someone who wasn't even there. That's why in the work of healing, it is important to tell the truth. Okay, so you're the being, you've already come back, you've already come into the earth whole, you've already wanted life. Your parents didn't get that experience, so they can't give you that experience. You can only give what you have. Okay, I can't give you a mansion when I stay in a 1-bedroom. Like, how does that even work? Do you know what I mean? It just, yeah. And then we have the doing. So like I said, from what they understood as their healing, because like I said, your parents were two lovers who became parents and then formed you. But in the two lovers, they came from their wounds, and then they brought you and your siblings into the world, and then you are experiencing the aftermath of that experience between the two lovers. Hence why I said sex is expensive. Because who you decide to marry, or who you decide to partner up with, who you decide to be friends with and in community with, are going to highly affect your life. Because let me just give an example. You can only sustain tapping into a certain addiction if it wasn't, you can only sustain not tapping into an addiction for so long. If you're going to surround yourself with people who drink, eventually, up until you move, you're going to start drinking. Because that community has built within you a sense of belonging from your wounds, from the veil of your conditioning. And I'm going to repeat what healing is. It's the removal of the veil from your conditioning that has kept you tied into fear. So this is why who you are choosing as a partner is going to affect your life and your health immensely. Because you must understand that, let's just pick drinking. Or like eating. If anyone's starting to feel offended with the drinking, I'm just using examples now. Now, you've got your eating. You're addicted to that. It's affecting your health on all levels. I don't need to say why. But if you're eating and you're constantly surrounded by eating and there's not enough balance to support the cleansing of the eating, then this is why it becomes an expensive act. Because what happens is then your bills, medication that you have to take, it all like it adds over time, you know, and it's adding to the stress of the life that you might be living. So basically, I'm trying to just say that the healing is important, and to not look at it from a boring aspect, because sometimes I think we don't do things that are very beneficial for us because of the lack of understanding. And I get it. Like I said, I was 15. This man who was instructing the yoga class was many, many moons ahead of me, for me to understand that the slow is the way of tapping back into being. So you need to be able to have a lifestyle that at least finds harmony or completely removes that which is only part of your conditioning. Because then I ask you, if you're only living through your conditioning, are you living? Like, do you want to see what's on the other side of the veil from fear? Would you like to see what's on the other side? love, the highest vibration of love? Is that something that's of interest to you? You got to consider these things. And your sex could be expensive right now. And I hope that this ignites something within you to start looking at the type of relationships that you have surrounded yourself with. Are they helping you find harmony at least? Because if all you're going to do is find friends who are eating and drinking and like partying, but they don't have that balance to balance out the cleansing. Because if there's a backlog in your system or your body can only heal itself so much. And that's why if you are not listening, you'll be forced. So injuries, different diseases that you'll take, being bedridden, life in your body, that's the wisdom of your body saying, we need to stop. We are not surrounding ourselves in truth in the highest alignment. So I hope that helps. And I'm going to really just broaden your perspective on why sex and healing and the energy of the Kundalini within you is so powerful to heal, so that you're no longer operating from your wounds, but you're moving from your highest alignment. And to come into your highest alignment takes a lot of honest work. Okay, so you got to tell the truth. Why you fear telling the truth is because you didn't have good examples of people telling the truth, but you have come to cut that cord. And I'm here to help you cut that cord. Just slowly, bit by bit. It takes time, but it doesn't have to take as long as it took me. So that's why I'm just like, here's this free information. Anyways, sending lots of love, and I'm going to dive into another talk for next time. Oh, yes, I forgot. I keep just leaving this. I forgot that I need to offer liking, sharing, subscribing to other people who would really find use of this channel. It really supports me too, to help the channel grow and to help people understand that the healing and relationship that is needed is between you and you, and that we can really have healthier relationships. That's the aim. And we can feel safer within ourselves. So with lots of love, I am signing out.